This unassuming little slab of beige 90s computing currently being crushed under this beautiful Trinitron is actually a very special machine. It's a UMAX SuperMac C500, a Macintosh clone from 1996. Despite it being an entry-level model in the UMAX lineup, it's actually a very solid and capable little machine. So today, let's show this machine some love with a teardown. And I actually couldn't find any other teardowns of this machine online, and it's kind of a puzzle to get it apart, so hopefully someone will find that useful. And then we'll replace its aging hard drive with our favorite industrial flash storage module. And then we'll reinstall macOS from the original install media, which just so happened to come with this machine when I picked it up, and it'll be really interesting to see just what the third-party Macintosh macOS install was like. So stay tuned. And if you enjoy reveling in Apple's missteps from the 90s and all the cool computers that resulted, I hope you'll consider subscribing to the channel. There's plenty more shenanigans where this thing came from. Oh, and if you're wondering what happened to the Color Classic we've been working on, check out the first video right here. I've just been waiting on some capacitors to arrive. Here they are. How convenient. So this C500 isn't actually my first UMAX. In fact, I've also had this UMAX SuperMac S900 for some time now, which was one of UMAX's top-of-the-range machines and a personal grail machine for me. Now, these Macintosh clones are super interesting, and they came from a very weird time in Apple's history. If you'd like to learn more about it, check out my video on this very S900 right here, where I go into a lot of detail. But long story short, Apple was a fast-sinking ship in the mid-90s. And in a desperate attempt to regain market share, they licensed the macOS to several companies to create officially sanctioned clones. Literally, Macs built and sold by companies other than Apple. This backfired rather spectacularly because the clones wound up offering more power and quality for less money than Apple's own machines, and actually cannibalized Apple's market share instead of adding to it. And you can really see it in these clones. The SuperMac S900 is a glorious and solid tower. And although it shares a case and chassis with other PCs of the era, the front panel design is beautiful. Just look at the Great Wave embossed under the door here. And inside, this machine was a way better deal than Apple's own high-end Macs, with savings ranging from hundreds to thousands of dollars versus a comparable machine from Apple. And this beautiful little pizza box C500 did the same thing at the entry level. A comparable budget Apple Performa 6000 series, such as the 6360, cost $1,500 on its release in October 1996. The C500, also released in October 96, started at $1,300. Not an insignificant difference. And the C500 is technically a better machine than those Performas. Both the Mac and the UMAX came with 16 megs of RAM, 8x CD-ROM drives, fast 603E PowerPC processors, and a 1.2 gigabyte hard drive as standard in small, sleek, pizza box-esque desktop form factors. However, the UMAX got you a faster processor for less money, and it was also more upgradable. The RAM on the UMAX maxes out at 144 megabytes versus 136 on Apple's 6360. The UMAX also has an upgradable processor and a handy ZIF socket, the first in a Macintosh clone, allowing for easy upgrades to faster 603E processors. The UMAX also has a nice selection of ports on the rear, at least for the time. One ADB port, two Mini-DIN 8 Geo ports, a DB25 SCSI connector with SCSI 2 support, and it has two PCI slots on the inside where the optional Ethernet card would go, and this machine also has a very handy USB 1.1 card. Now, I know I could compare this C500 to other Macs in the 96 and 97 lineup, and it would fare a little better or a little worse. I mean, Apple's product line was kind of a real mess back then. But I think the Performa 6360 is a good choice because it came out in the same month as the C500, and it seems to have targeted the same consumer. And it's not as compromised as some of the earlier 6000 series machines like the 6200 line, which this Mac actually is, but shh, don't tell them. We like them anyway. So today, I'd like to do a quick teardown of this UMAX. Like I mentioned earlier, I couldn't find any teardown guides for it on the internet anywhere. And thanks to PCBWay for sponsoring today's video. PCBWay has long been a go-to source for quality PCBs and PCB prototyping. With incredibly low pricing and turnarounds as fast as 24 hours, PCBWay also offers PCB assembly services. In case you have giant Hulk hands like me and don't want to spend a bunch of time fumbling around with the soldering iron. Starting at $30 for 20 PCBs, PCBA, and component sourcing, it's incredibly convenient to get your projects up and running quickly. And delivery services can be as fast as 24 hours. So check out PCBWay.com today. It'll really help the channel grow. Link in the description below. So before we tear into this machine, let me give you a quick tour of the setup that we've got going on. Now I've paired this SuperMac with this beautiful Sony Trinitron 200SF, which is an absolutely gorgeous display and actually period correct to the SuperMac. A lot of UMAXs were shown in pictures with this very monitor. And thank you very much, Steve from Mac84, for helping coordinate this score at the recent VCF East swap meet. And this machine also came with a UMAX SuperMac branded keyboard and a branded mouse inside of the original accessory kit box, which is pretty cool to see. Now, I was very excited to see that this machine already came maxed out in memory at 144 megs. So that's two 64 meg sticks, plus the 16 that's soldered to the motherboard. It also came with macOS 9.1, which I think is a little optimistic for the 140 megahertz processor that's in this thing, but we're gonna install from the original install medium, which I believe is macOS 7.5.5. Now, like I mentioned, I couldn't find any guides online about how to actually take this thing apart. So I went ahead and took it apart once already just to figure out how to do it. And I'm glad I did, because it's not hard to take apart, but it's definitely a puzzle, and everything has to come apart in just the right order, and some of it is not very obvious. And also, disclaimer, this thing was definitely apart before, because this thumb screw on the back was just sitting around in the box when I got this thing in. So if some screws are a little bit different or missing in mine, that's your caveat, but this should help you take this apart. Now, lifting the case off is very easy. There's just these two tabs on either side. You push them out and lift the case up. Now, once inside, you actually have to take out the RAM stick next to the floppy drive first. Make sure you do that. It will not come apart if you don't do that. You're also going to want to take off the floppy connector, because also it won't come apart if you don't take that off. Now, the front can be disconnected with these little tabs here. There's 3 of them, and it just slides right off, and kind of pull it down and then away. Of course, be very careful, because ancient plastic gets extremely brittle. Next, you're only going to need a Phillips head screwdriver, which is pretty nice. There are screws across the front, 3 of them. We're just going to go ahead and take all 3 out. The floppy drive slides back until you hit this little notch here, and then it can just come straight out. Next, we have to take the hard drive out, which isn't difficult, but it is annoying. There is one single screw right here. It's kind of hard to see on camera. There we go. There's one single screw right here. Take that screw out, and then you have to push the hard drive forward. Now, if yours has never come apart before, this will be extremely difficult, but it's only on there now by friction. There's 4 kind of pegs holding it in place. It might help if you wedge something in there and slide it forward that way. But once it's loose, it'll just come straight up and you can disconnect the cables. And there's the little latches that just hold it in place via friction. Again, I was looking in here forever for a second screw before I just said, let me try to jam it out. And yeah, that's what it is. Now you can unhook the CD-ROM SCSI cable, the CD audio cable, and of course the power supply cable to it. which is a little annoying because of how tight it is in here. And now, very not obviously, the CD whole unit lifts straight up like this and kind of rotates out and comes loose. And there's just a little hook here that you have to rotate it to pull it out. And now we're down to the motherboard, and we can see the very cool ZIF socketed processor with the green heatsink, which I love. This here is the cache slot, which, no spoilers, might have something to do with the crazy upgrade that I have planned for this thing. And back here, this is why we needed to take all that stuff off, to get to the hard drive's IDE cable, so we can plug in our disk on module, which this one fits in here perfectly. Look at that, it's just the right height. And then interestingly enough, there's a floppy connector on the motherboard, even though that's not used. It uses the floppy connector on this little daughter board that houses the PCI card slots. So yeah, technically you could put a second floppy in here, and there's the header for it right there. All right, we're back together, booted to a flashing question mark. Let's pop in our SuperMac system software for C600 and C500 version 1.0 system software. Okay, so here we are booted into the installer for the SuperMac. And yeah, let's see. Yep. System 755, so that's pretty good. It's not like System 753 and then you have to run that stupid update. It's just straight up 755. And not only does it open with this Mac OS little installer folder, but it has this launcher open, which has documentation, installers, and utilities. And that's very handy because we're going to have to use these utilities, specifically Hard Disk Toolkit PE, to be able to format our, well, technically what's an SSD on IDE, which, yeah, this computer is not going to know what to do with. So there we go, our IDE master hard disk sees 7.38 gigabytes, which is weird because it's supposed to be 16 and it says volumes damaged. All right. We'll auto initialize it. And I'm going to take off create volumes larger than 2 gigabytes. And let's let it create, like, I guess 3 2 gigabyte partitions. All right. So we have 4 partitions, 3 2 gigabytes, 1 1 gigabyte. We'll call the first one Mac. And we'll install the OS there. And under installers here, we have all of our system stuff and some extra stuff. So let's start with installing the system software. I like that this system installer splash screen here is unique to UMAX with 2 models of UMAX. And yeah, kind of poor readability with this black text on dark blue background, but it was the 90s. All right, we'll install this on the first partition here, Mac. I'm going to custom install and make sure we add a bunch of stuff. All right. All right, install successful. Let's see if there's just some other stuff we should install on here. Mexican TTS installer. Neat. I guess Mexico was a big market for this machine, which I did not know. Also, I don't speak Spanish that well, so we don't need that. Power Talk connectivity, QuickTime conferencing. Hey, neat, maybe this can replace all my Zoom calls. Okay, so I think we're good to restart and boot from our industrial disk on module. Welcome to Macintosh. Success. And just look at that super snappy startup time. That is miles away from trying to boot 9.1 from a spinning hard drive on this thing. Hey, look at that. We can register our UMAX SuperMac, which if I don't have a modem, I can register electronically and then mail or fax the printed form to UMAX. Okay, so don't have a working modem, so we'll say never register. And about this Macintosh, yeah, look at that. SuperMac C500 and a little picture of our SuperMac. That's pretty cool. Now I want to get some software on here, so let's use the world's best bridge machine, a 12-inch PowerBook G4 connected to my home Wi-Fi. So obviously the most important thing is, how well does this thing game? So let's try a little bit of Duke Nukem 3D. That doesn't look too bad. And I'll tell you, the speaker on this thing actually is pretty good. Let's just turn up the volume a little bit. Oh. All right. And man, this Trinitron, it is just glorious. All right, so we've got a little bit of a window here, but let's use the default settings.
Damn, I'm good. Damn.
The controls seem a little bit weird, actually. It's like I can only press 2 keys at the same time. Oh, jeez. Yeah, if I push shift to run, I can only push 1 other key at the same time. Ah. Let's go for keyboard and mouse. Alright, here we go. Yeah, this plays pretty well, honestly. We'll just make the controls something a little more sane here. There we go. Yeah, I'm surprised how well this game is playing on this system, being only 140 megahertz. Oh, I'm so bad at this game. Oh my god. I'm just bad at all video games. I wonder if we can get a bigger screen here. Yeah, here we go. Full screen. Let's see what that's like. Oh, not too bad. A little slow, but it's fine. Turn on our video here. I needed that. Uh-oh. Whoops. This is pretty great. I did not expect Duke Nukem to run this well in full screen. But it's doing a great job. Okay, so that'll do it for the UMAX SuperMac C500. It might not be the most powerful machine at 140 megahertz, but it is certainly cool, and running System 7, it's a lot better than I expected it to be. In fact, I don't really have a System 7 system up and running right now. I've got macOS 8 and up on pretty much every other machine, so even though this is pretty upgradable with that processor on a ZIF socket, maybe I'll keep this at 140 megahertz and just have a really nice System 7 machine. Who am I kidding? The next time you see this machine, we're going to install an upgrade that is inhumanly rare and make this a killer G3 machine. So if you like this video, I'd appreciate a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more clone shenanigans like this, including this extremely rare upgrade, please subscribe down below. Thank you very much for watching.
And a special thanks to Camilla Noseda, Chris Allegretta, Chris Calderon, Chris Nelson, that's a lot of Chris's, David Teglovics, Greg Hrutke from Hrutke Mods, John Malman, Nick Hamsey, who are my highest tiered patrons, and all of my Patreon supporters for helping to make these videos possible.